Dr. Jeremy Weisz here. I'm founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Baby Einstein, Atari, many more, how they overcome big challenges in life and business. This is part of the Skubana e-commerce mastery series, where top sellers and experts teach you what really works to boost your e-commerce business. Skubana is a software platform to manage your entire e-commerce operation. Today, I'm very excited. We have Scott Scharf. He's the co-founder of Catching Clouds. It's a cloud accounting for e-commerce businesses, specific for online and e-commerce businesses. Scott has been in IT for over 30 years, working with global to small businesses. Scott brings the technical side of things, while his co-founder and wife, Patty, is a CPA who provides the deep accounting expertise. Scott, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
You know, you have so much. I watch a bunch of interviews, videos of you giving advice to, and there's so many questions business owners have. So I want to start off with some of the, which you see probably a lot of the biggest mistakes e-commerce businesses need to avoid.
Specifically e-commerce businesses. I mean, the first thing is you've got to treat your business as a business and put a reasonable amount of time into putting processes into place. So if you've optimized how you're shipping and fulfilling your products, or you've optimized how you list or select products, you've got to focus on the business side. E-commerce businesses are all about commerce, generating money, and you need to manage that money so that you meet your own goals. It's finding that balance, and great. I know that most e-commerce business owners and most business owners did not go into business to do accounting. Okay,
they did not. Sexy.
Yeah, they did not go into business to complete sales tax returns, and a lot didn't go into business to pack a lot of boxes because they really enjoyed packing boxes every day. So those are some of the things they look to outsource, are accounting and other pieces. But unfortunately, business owners, you have to do it yourself for a little while when you're starting out, so that you understand what it is you're outsourcing.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about outsourcing. But so what do you see when you say, how are people not treating their business like a business? What are you seeing?
They're running their business out of their single bank balance. You can't run your business because you don't know what liabilities you have looking at that, okay? They haven't implemented accounting, okay? And that's not fighting and slogging your way through QuickBooks Desktop, which is one of the most painful products.
Horrible.
Yeah, I'm sure there are businesses that have gone out of business. So if I can save people from QuickBooks, they're better tools. So if you're a modern e-commerce business selling on Shopify, Amazon, doing stuff in the 21st century, you want a 21st century cloud accounting platform, and we recommend Xero, and that's xero.com. It's easier to use. I'm not an accounting person. I get in and move around it, and I'm able to do things as a business owner. It'd be much more effective. And then you find the right tools. And so the core tools that you need are a good cloud accounting. The other piece that we include and that every business needs is a solid cloud inventory ERP solution that connects to your channels, where you generate a purchase order. So every time you buy something, you know what you're buying and you capture the cost. When you receive it, you know what you've received. And then all of your orders and all of your data flows down, and it can optimize and provide a structure to your business. I'm not really talking accounting. I'm just talking about process, okay? Which means you could train your wife to do it. You can hire a virtual assistant to do it. You could outsource it to someone like us. The idea is that if once you have that structure and you want it to do things and leverage technology, so you don't have to hire 20 people to do things. You can have a small team making great profits. And then those tools, if you have a cost for everything and every sale from every channel in one place, then we can pull the accounting data off the back end, the cost of goods sold and the value of inventory, which is cash. Keep in mind, if you have $100,000 or $1 million of inventory at Amazon FBA, that's your cash that you're not paying interest on. Some of it's making you a profit and some of it's costing you money in storage fees. So it's those two key things. And then there are a number of other tools that you need to help optimize things. But those are the core. A solid cloud accounting tool that you use and connect to your banks and automatically pulls in data, and a cloud inventory that pulls in all of your sales and orders. Do not expect your accounting tool to be a multi-channel inventory management tool. You're just setting up everybody for failure.
Yeah. So what mistakes within the process, and I know I checked out your tools section of your website. So you provide a really good description there of some of those tools, which we'll talk about because I want to hear your personal opinion. But what do you see people making mistakes within the process? How are people making mistakes within that?
So there's one of the big accounting processes once you have all this automated technology is you set it up and you can forget it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're connected and you're pulling in all of your bank feeds and credit card transactions and the PayPal feed, and so you know what's going in, and most of these tools have the thing where it recognizes it and you hit okay, 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 okay. That's great. That's like the first step. But what an accountant does, or what you need to do, is you actually have to get the bank statement via PDF. And I'll tell you about one of my favorite tools that saves us so much time is a tool called HubDoc. Connects to Chase, Wells Fargo, Verizon, Comcast, all of these sites, connects and automatically downloads your bank statements. So when you connect, it'll grab the last 2 or 5 years of bank statements and you have it all in one place. So the big accounting thing that when we go to clean people up is that you have to compare what came through electronically to what the bank actually says in any other statements, because there can be some drastic differences, and that's where money disappears on them. And that's the piece that they're not finishing is the first step. And then the other thing is just not being careful. You can be simple about how you code that data so that you actually end up with a financial that you can actually read, even with an accountant, and understand it enough to work for you. So it's the missing those steps. And then there's a world of things we can talk about on sales tax.
So Scott, stay on that for a second, because it's really interesting. So once people implement that, right? So they implement Xero, they implement HubDoc, and they kind of see it. What are some of the big takeaways you've seen people get once they have it in one place? What are they seeing then on the kind of data level?
Okay, so I mean the big thing is, and you know, our mission statement is to provide e-commerce businesses current, accurate, and actionable information so they can make great decisions.
Right.
Okay. So if you can trust your numbers, one of the big things most people can't answer. Okay, if you told somebody you have to go on the Shark Tank in 5 minutes, okay, would you know those numbers? If you met an investor that's willing to buy your company, but if you can't tell them your sales and know how profitable you are, if you don't have that comfort level, you're not sleeping well, or more importantly, telling your spouse or your partners or whatever how the business is doing, you've got a gut feel. Once you have that number, you're going to be able to relax and you'll understand numbers is really kind of the key thing that people want to know. Is your business profitable? Okay. How much money do you owe? And then the big thing is how much cash is available, okay, to spend on marketing, okay, because people have to find you, even on Amazon. You can't not market. If you market, you'll be more effective on Amazon or your other site. If nobody knows about your Shopify site and your URL, no one's going to be able to buy it. And then, you know, and then how much cash do you have available? Because the last thing you want to do is go, yay, I can pay myself 10 grand, okay, but you forgot you have payroll of 8 grand next week, okay? Or you pre-ordered a bunch of product from China that shows up for next week for 12 grand. So not only do you have to tell your spouse that, oh, that 10 grand I took out that you needed to buy groceries with, or a new car.
We're not eating this week, right?
We're not eating this week. I have to take that out and an extra 2 grand because I forgot about that, you know.
It's painful.
Painful. It's managing that cash flow and looking ahead enough to make smart decisions. It's both the comfort level of knowing if you're profitable, okay, and you look to your accounting system, because you want to look in the right place. You want to talk to the right people about the right questions. But if you look in your accounting, it's going to tell you how profitable you are, okay? It's going to tell you how much money you have invested in inventory, and it's going to show you where you're spending your money and where you can cut expenses, or you go, wow, I'm not spending enough on marketing. It's those decisions. Then you look at a cash flow tool that's going to help tell you how much cash you have going in and out of your business for the next 4-6 weeks out to make those decisions to say, okay, I can spend 50 grand on inventory, okay, and then in 3 weeks, then I'll pay myself, okay, or okay, now I can increase that. You want to do that. And so you know those things, and those are the key things you go back and forth. It's both a cash flow management, which is different than the accounting, okay? The accounting answers certain questions, and cash flow accounts it. And it's understanding those two things, and those are really the two tools. Beyond that, for e-commerce businesses, then you want your cloud inventory solution. It should give you the analytics on the profitability per SKU, the profitability on your orders, the profitability per channel, okay? And it should show you the velocity of how fast things are selling. So which are my top 5 products from margin perspective, but which are my top ones that are selling faster that I can turn over every 3 weeks, okay, or 6 weeks. You want to look at it for what are the dogs? Which are ones that are sitting in inventory and you're paying warehouse fees that you're going to lose money on if they sit in a warehouse for 3 months. But if you sell them in under 2 months, you make a profit. And then you should sell those off on eBay. And those are those 3 tools: accounting, core accounting, be able to understand that, cash flow management, and then in cloud inventory. There are other dashboards and other tools that you can use to do different tasks like listing or repricing or other pieces. But when you're looking at how your business is doing and making decisions, those are the core.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And yeah, I want to get into the software, but first I want to talk about, because people are at different levels, and you probably see people at different levels, or people come to you and maybe they're not ready for you. So can you talk about some of those issues? Like, when is someone ready to implement these solutions and what they should be doing to kind of build up to that point?
So my opinion is the sooner you implement the systems, how much easier it is to do. So if you're a smaller business, keep in mind Xero is going to cost you $30 a month. Okay, even if it's
that's not a lot. Okay,
you can do that. Okay, so it's not going to do there. Skubana is going to cost you per order. So it's going to cost you almost nothing, which I think is a great intro fee, even though they're really powerful for higher end sellers. I think that's great. It means that your costs are going to be fairly low to get a really powerful tool. And when you grow and you're making more money, as long as you're getting a reasonable margin on your products, then it'll cost you more. Okay. So you've got a few of these other tools. So expect you're going to spend. Keep in mind, you're going to spend, if you budget $100 to $200 in tools. Okay. You maybe use Inventory Lab and HubDoc and Xero on the accounting. Payroll, if you have to do payroll and you're an S corp. Zen Payroll is going to cost you $30 a month.
Yeah.
Okay? And then $4 more for each employee per month. Okay. Before, even 3 years ago, if you're buying software, you're spending hundreds of dollars up front or thousands of dollars. I mean, it's amazing what you can get for $100 to $300, and just build that in as overhead. Okay. Because the automation will save you time right there. And so really it's, be a business. So my basics for any of these businesses, not only tools, are be registered with your own state, get a federal EIN, have a separate business bank account, keep your business and personal finances separated. But that means that even if it's okay if you're using your own personal credit cards to fund your business and buy inventory for capital. That's totally normal. Everybody does it. But when you use one card, only use it for business. Don't be buying groceries on the same card. You want to keep them separate. Both, it makes it easy for the accounting and it'll make it easier for you. So use one credit card for personal expenses and one card, and then build the business stuff. Then register for a sales tax license in your own state. You want to be completely legal where you live and where you're registered as a business. And then set up the basic cloud accounting, okay? Cloud inventory and sales tax management, like a tool like TaxJar or Taxify.co are the two that I work with, depending on what size business you are and what you're doing. And then there's a bunch of other add-on tools, depending if you're an Amazon seller or if you're doing drop shipping or you need shipping management. There's a range of other things, but those core, and you put those fundamentals in, spend $100 to $150 a month on basic tools, and do your best, is going to be better than just ignoring it, and even better than running things on spreadsheets, even if you're going to keep track of certain things on spreadsheets. And there's my basic guidance for really any business. Then you can hire a virtual assistant or an accountant or somebody else can then clean all that up if you're doing it at least in a consistent way.
And, Scott, you have a very technical background. When I was reading, I think your majors in college were physics, math, and computer science. And so I was like, this guy should be like one of the founders of Google, like not in an accounting program. But what do you find with Skubana? You have a very technical background. Obviously, you recommend different tools. Tell me a little bit about your experience with Skubana.
Okay, so Skubana's been great in the background. So one of the key things I do is not only evaluate cloud accounting tools and other back offices, I've evaluated and looked at over 30 cloud inventory platforms. And I've got a huge matrix that compares them all and figure out, because whenever I meet a business, I find the right solution for the right company. And then I have a high bar, and then I provide technical feedback. But looking at these tools, I was a product manager and ran teams of developers in my past as well.
Right.
And so I'm very picky about the user interface. Okay, and there are a few fundamentals that I expect in a certain product that it's easy to use. Okay, I don't care how complex the task is. The technology should make the task of doing what you're trying to do simple. Okay, it should abstract all the complexity, not be a cool complex computer program and make the task complex too. Okay,
Yeah.
and I really think Skubana, from a flow and a speed of being able to get the job done and make those decisions, both make the decisions and automate it. So the key things I like about Skubana is, one, it connects to dynamically and quickly to all the key channels. You know, multiple Amazons around the world, Amazon.ca.uk, integrate there. Shopify, BigCommerce, eBay, and then it's got an automatic, very fast about pulling that data in. Because what a cloud inventory should do is, you have one vision of the truth. The number one thing it has to do well is it has one vision of the truth of what inventory you have. Okay?
Right.
So I have 1,000 widgets in stock, and I'm selling on eBay and my own Shopify site and Amazon. It needs to sell. If I sell 500 on Amazon, it should tell Shopify and eBay that I only have 500 left as quickly as possible, so you don't oversell. That's like the number one thing, because otherwise you have sellers out there hiring virtual assistants to try to chase their sales. So it dynamically provides that. It pulls in all the orders, so it knows what you've sold, and then it keeps that available stock up to date and alert you when you need to buy more of something that's making you money and selling faster. Okay?
Yeah.
And then it needs the ability. The other thing that's unique, or where's what Skubana does very well, is they've incorporated all of the shipping. In many other cases in cloud inventory solutions, what people are using is Shipping Easy or ShipStation or another third-party tool that connects and helps you filter and save pricing, save costs on shipping. Okay, so if you have a product come in and you're in the middle of the U.S., sometimes it's cheaper to use UPS to ship to the West Coast and FedEx to the East Coast, and it changes all the time depending on where it's going and everything else. And it'll do that. Skubana does that internally, and really automates that process with some really smart rules. Not a lot of these tools have the same type of rules engine that Orderbot does to say, look, if it's under this size and it's being shipped this way, always ship it in a plastic, bag mailer. If it's this, do this. And it builds those functions. So you can build those unique things that I always do it this way because our customers like it, or it's the most cost-effective or fastest way to do it. And you can build those very complex rules in, just like, better than what Outlook ever had for rules for your email. And so that's something that's really impressive. Also, the ability, if you sell on eBay, to tell eBay anything that comes in from eBay, ship out of Amazon, okay? And have Amazon fulfill that for you. That ability the rules to do it automatically for you, or the ability inside the user interface to look at orders as a human and say, you can automate it, but you can go in and say, no, send it that way, send it that way. You can very easily direct where things, send that to my West Coast 3PL warehouse, send this one to that. And you can do it manually for a while, and once you figure out the flow, then you can automate it. And as soon as you get into the automation, not just collecting all the data, but automating, and that's where I think Skubana really shines. And it's that automation that will accelerate a very fast e-commerce business.
Yeah, and I asked not necessarily to make it a Skubana commercial or anything, but I think it's important to talk about some of the key metrics that people are looking at, and also different automation that people should be thinking about in their e-commerce. Because you list a bunch of different softwares on your site: Xero, HubDoc, Zen Payroll, Skubana, and then you also Bill.com. Is that similar to Zen Payroll, or what will people use that for?
Zen Payroll's payroll for companies. It's awesome, super modern. No, Bill.com is bill payment. It basically is your electronic checkbook. So we have clients all over the U.S., and we want access to their information, not their money. Okay, but people don't want to write checks. Okay, and checks are going away. A lot of things are done via credit card. But if you want to write a check, what happens is we get a bill from a vendor. You bought a bunch of product and you owe them net 30. Okay, it goes into Bill.com, and then the bookkeepers can review it and approve it. You could have your operations purchasing manager see it, so it has multiple levels of approval, so that your purchaser can look at it and say, when you get the actual invoice, and say, no, they weren't supposed to charge us shipping, or no, that's not right, or they sent us an invoice from another client. I mean, all these things that happen, but the purchasing person can say, yes, that's correct, and approve it or put comments in. and then it goes to the owner. The owner is the one, when they approve it, and they can be on the golf course with their smartphone, they can be wherever, they can be at 3 o'clock in the morning, look and say, pay, and that's them signing their checks, and it's done. Okay.
Gotcha.
In our case, it goes to our controller who makes sure there's enough money in the bank account to pay them, and then Bill.com pulls the money out the very next day. So keep in mind, you don't get the float anymore for all those checks. Bill.com does. What happens, and then they will either do an electronic payment if somebody's signed up for ACH, or they will print the check and mail it, including if you're sending you're paying 10 bills to the same vendor, it'll combine them all into one check and send it off. So it gives you the multi-level approval, it gives you check printing, and it gives you ACH payment capability. So it's an add-on to optimize that. So we don't use it for every client because we have quite a few that do everything via credit card or wires. So it's not for every business, but for a business that wants to replace the checkbook, it provides levels of accountability. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone, obviously you talk about these and you list them on your site. It's catchingclouds.net/tools. They should check out, because you have them all listed there and some description there, so they should check that out. I reached out to a few. I want to hear about big messes that you've had to clean up, but because I'm sure you have a lot of horror stories to tell. But I reached out to a couple sellers. I'm like, well, what questions would you ask Scott? What are the biggest pressing questions? And two things kept coming up.
Yeah.
And you probably hear this all the time. One is they wanted to know third-party reporting software that would figure out profit. If there's like an Amazon tool that's good, or I don't know if it's a combination of what you just talked about. They need to do all of those together to figure out the profit. What are the different combinations that you suggest, or what you already suggested?
Okay. So, all right. So if you're looking for profitability per SKU, you should expect that from your cloud inventory, like Skubana or Stitch Labs or TradeGecko or OrderBot. Okay. If you're a purely Amazon seller only, you can look and get a reasonable P&L, a profit and loss, okay, out of Inventory Lab. Okay, it's not a cloud inventory tool, so it's not going to manage your inventory. It's just going to give you information about both the margin on each both SKU and order, and the ROI for those. Okay, so that's at the front end. That's the SKU. And then if you want the profitability per channel, okay, so your gross profitability. So on Amazon, I sold $1 million, and I had $600,000 in cost of goods sold for all the products I bought, and then minus the Amazon fees. What's my profit on Amazon compared to Shopify, where you're paying 2.9% for fees, okay? And that'll give you gross before your overall expenses, payroll, rent, shipping, and everything else. So you can do gross margin easily. Where you get the answer of your actual profitability for your business is in an accounting platform where you have a P&L, a profit and loss that shows all of your income, cost of goods sold, gross, then all of your expenses, payroll, and everything else, and then that'll get it to you. And how you get that is having an accountant or yourself do a detailed close where you look at every single item, reconcile every bank account, and that's where you get the profitability per for the business. So it's different levels, and you should expect different tools.
Right.
And then there are different tools like Forecastly that does some really great, that's a new tool in beta that does some analytics around Amazon. And there are other tools depending, but basically for the most part, you can look to your cloud inventory for profitability per SKU, and it's like what Skubana does, and then your accounting system. And those are the two places to get those two numbers.
Yeah. You're probably trying all the new software as it comes out. So what's big messes you had to clean up? What's your, I don't know, favorite stories is the best way to phrase it, but
let me think. So we do an initial assessment, and we can't say the word forensics because we're not forensic accountants, but we do a detailed review of the books. What are some of the big messes?
Tell me some horror stories. Yeah.
Well, horror stories. I mean, you come in and you look at somebody who thinks they're doing okay, and they're missing 4 or 5 of their credit cards. Okay, so they're ignoring tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and they're just ignoring it. I mean, they have the bills, but it's not in their accounting. So one of the things is not having everything in their accounting. What are the other things? I mean, we find accounting where everything's coded wrong, but the biggest nightmares that we run into are sales tax liability. Okay, Amazon FBA, so Amazon's fulfillment by Amazon, where you ship your products and they're a warehouse logistics company, okay, not just a marketplace where they sell stuff and everybody comes to buy stuff, is that Amazon creates sales tax nexus in 15 states for these sellers. People might want to put their heads in the sand and are going no, and they'll wait for the Marketplace Fairness Act and Congress to do something. When they do anything, they're just going to make it worse. And the word amnesty's nowhere in there. And so what we run into is people that have been doing business on Amazon for a number of years. We use the tools like TaxJar, Taxify to pull in all the transactions for the last few years. Look at when the first time they shipped something out of Texas. So September of 94 was when they opened, or 93. I think it was 94 that they opened that warehouse. So before then, if you sold anything to Texas, you didn't have Nexus in Texas. And we've seen businesses that have owed $200,000 to $300,000 to California, not the other 14 states. And that's money they didn't collect when they made the sales. They don't have $200,000 sitting in the bank that they'll never have the money, okay, to pay. And almost every seller that finally, if they choose to collect, they collect going forward. And if they get audited, then that's the risk, is that they're unaware of the sales tax liability and there are a bunch of sellers that have just said, I'm going to collect in my own state. And you can choose to say as a business that it's too expensive for me to collect in that state, both whether it's paying an extra.
Because you have to file in every state that you're in.
File in every state. So, you've got to register in the state. Now, once you're registered, if you do it from day one, you're just paying the overhead because you basically take the time or money to collect the sales tax, you put it in a separate account, and then you send it off to the state. If you do it from day one, once you get behind, that's where the real challenge is. And if you're going to sell your business, and you either have to disclose that and say, well, there's $100,000 in liability, they're going to take that off the amount. Now, they may not choose to get legal, but they're not going to pay you if they know they have this liability if they get audited. Now, the chance of getting audited is fairly low, but it's continuing to go up. From accounting mistakes...
let's stick on that for a second, Scott, because that was the second thing people said. The first was the reporting, the third-party software that figures out profit, and the second major concerns was the sales tax piece. So are you saying anywhere you ship goods to, if it's, you have maybe you're shipping goods to 2 Amazon warehouses, you should be collecting sales tax in that state?
So the way it works is where you have Nexus. So you have Nexus where you have your employees, so where you are, where your employees are. So if you're back east and you're in New York and your employees are in New Jersey, you have sales tax Nexus in New Jersey. And where you have property, not just buildings, but your inventory. You own your inventory until the consumer receives it and signs for it from FedEx, okay? Amazon, if you're on a Seller Central account, Amazon's not buying that product from you. You're sending it to them. You own it at their warehouses. What happens is even if you ship all of your inventory to one Amazon warehouse, or it's 101 or more items and they tell it to send it to 2 or 3 warehouses, they dynamically move it to all 15 warehouses, okay? You have no control. Well, there are actually programs you can pay more and have Amazon keep it to a minimum warehouse, but then you pay more for shipping. Okay.
Right.
It's the pro-con thing. Do you reduce your piece? So where you have Nexus, and then you can't collect sales tax until you have a license. You're not licensed to collect sales tax. So it is criminal to collect sales tax if you don't have a license.
I gotcha. Yeah.
It is criminal to collect sales tax and not give it to the state. Okay, and so the next big thing we see is that somebody will be selling on eBay, Amazon, and their own Shopify site, okay? And they'll give their data to their accountant Amazon's usually the hardest, but what they'll do is they'll give their data for Shopify and eBay to their accountant and not file the $5,000 in sales tax they collected through Amazon, okay? So what they do is they collected it properly in all 3 channels, and then they didn't add it all up from everywhere and send it all into the state. So we'll run into people that are like, hey, you collected 10 grand in sales tax that you never sent to the state. You need to fix that right now. Okay? And you need to find that
Do they
money.
typically get a letter from the state saying you owe this, or not really?
So here's the channel. So the challenge is that no, the chance of being audited is very slim. I mean, keep in mind there are 2.5 million Amazon sellers. So if we're talking about Amazon sellers, there are 2.5 million pro sellers. There are maybe 200 to 500 auditors in each state. Okay, and they're focused on they have to by law audit the big companies, you know, the Fortune 500, whatever companies in their state. So there's only so many left over to go after e-commerce sellers. And so that's just the reality of what's out there. Pennsylvania is pretty harsh about sending emails out or letters out to everybody, kind of as
Like a blanket thing. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, seriously, what most counties and cities going for a state, if they were a individual or a business, it would be a shakedown. Okay, because most states, like all the local cities around here, when you have employees, they'll send you a letter that says you owe $2,000 in tax. Okay, and we say and we get these too. We're a services business. We don't have to pay sales tax or pay tax anywhere except to the state once a year as our income tax. Go pound sand. Okay, I mean you put on the letter we write, do it. The other thing is any business, another tip, if you ever get a survey that says, please complete this survey to see if you have Nexus, okay? You can look at it. If one of the answers is absolutely less, yes, you live in that state or you have a 3PL warehouse, say yes. But on any other case, don't check a single box, put a cover letter that says, we do not have Nexus in your state. Because you can't answer the survey without saying, yes, you have Nexus. Okay, so it's the governments do a bunch of stuff where they shake everybody down.
Wow.
And don't just trust the numbers. They might say you owe $5,000 in tax, and you look at your thing and you owe $200. Okay, you fill out the form and you send them $200 and you're done. But they'll send you a letter that says you owe $5,000 because they'll just guess.
Wow.
So these are some of the things. It is painful. It is complex. It can be expensive. But it's a reality for e-commerce businesses, and you need to take the time to be aware of what's going on, and then you make a decision on a risk management decision on whether or not you collect or file in any state where you have Nexus.
Now, Scott, are people coming to you freaking out, or are they coming to you being proactive?
I get both.
Okay.
I get both, and I do run into more and more people these days are aware. They're on Facebook groups. They're on. They work on different groups. So I'm speaking at Jim Cochran's CES show in a few weeks in Kentucky, and I'll be there in their experts area answering sales tax questions. People are being more proactive.
Yeah.
I have to say it's so complex that there are quite a few people that just can't get through the complexity to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I run into people that are absolutely aware and say, hey, I'm going to only pay tax in my state. Forget it's the Commerce Clause. Screw every other state. Okay, they can take that position, and until they get audited, it's not going to get challenged. And you're only getting audited state by state. You're not going to get audited by every state.
Right.
And so we run into different levels. And what I tend to do is I make, like this conversation, I try to educate people for their decision. If you're going to sell the business, or you can't sleep unless you're completely compliant and legal, then you should absolutely comply. Otherwise, you should balance the costs to the impact to your business. Yeah,
it's a risk management decision is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So what other big messes that you had to clean up?
It's the fact if you're not using a cloud inventory tool, you have no idea what your cost of goods sold are, and you have no idea the value of your inventory. Okay? And so you literally, they have no idea how profitable they are or how much money. And then if they're not even looking at the value of the inventory, that I have $100,000 invested in inventory that may or may not be making you money, then they're making the next big mistake of not analyzing that inventory and selling off the bottom. It's the 80-20 rule. It's 20% of your products are making you 80% of your profit. And the other part could be costing you money and losing money. Okay? Accounting things. People just do all kinds of stuff. I mean, one, they don't realize that personal property tax returns are actually for the business. So if you own computers and scales and printers and all those other things, you actually have to complete a personal property tax return and submit those once a year. We've had massive things when people start hiring people are doing 1099s. It's great that you can hire people. One trick is if you pay all your 1099s via PayPal submits those 1099s because the people that sign up to receive the money register their social security number or list that they're out of the country. So that's one thing. That's one way to not have to do 1099s in January. Okay.
Just use PayPal.
And then we run into people that just do payroll wrong. The owners pay themselves wrong, and they just impact their tax liability. The other, probably one of the bigger things I see is, one of the challenges I see, and this is something I'm really passionate about, is when the only advisor that a business is talking to is their CPA, they're going to tell them to structure their business to reduce their income tax to the minimum. And that's the only way they're running their business. Now, there's a couple impacts to that. Okay. One, you're not showing profitability to you as the owner. You feel like you're not making any money because of the way you're doing things. You're trying to show you don't make any money, so you don't pay tax. Well, then you don't feel like your business is making money because you're trying to reduce your tax, and that's your main priority. Well, is that really your priority? I understand as one of the multiple priorities. One, profit for the business. Two, a sustainable long-term business. Three, minimize sale income tax to a reasonable amount. You don't want to give the government too much, okay? But what you'll do is you'll see someone that's only talking to a CPA and everything they're doing, and then they can't get a loan because they show so little profit. A bank's loan them because the way they're structuring their business, and you want to find a balance. So that's a big one, and you want to find the right person. So you want to talk to an accountant about setting up your accounting and a bookkeeper that's going to keep things up to date and have that right mindset. You're to a CPA about your tax planning, both personally and business, and have a few rules so that things work out the way you want. So you're not surprised by it, okay? If you're looking, so we do all the tactical stuff and deal with today, not just the past. Accounting's typically looking at the past, and we try to do everything in real time, so it's all about now, okay? Yeah. And we'll go out 4 to 6 weeks, and most people themselves will project things out, but people start to say, well, what do I have to do to plan not just for this holiday season, but for next holiday season? Because I want to double and then double again. You want to talk to a virtual CFO. You don't need to hire a CFO, okay? You can talk to a virtual CFO, and that's what they do. And they're virtual CFOs, and I partner with some that focus on e-commerce businesses, that understand inventory. They'll help you get that long-term financing and funding, and it's asking the right person the right question. And then take the time to read the books, whether it's E-Myth, Revisited. The big one I'm reading that we're going to start buying and sharing with all our clients is Profit First, which is
Who wrote that?
Mike Michaelwitz. And I know somebody who knows him. I'm going to meet him here shortly. But it really, in my view, it helps because people don't know how to budget. Even if you use a tool like You Need a Budget. So I'm married to a CPA. I haven't had to balance a checkbook in 2 years. It's awesome. Okay, pros and cons. Now, she tracks every penny I spend. Okay, so there are pros and cons.
What is this, Scott? What did you buy here? You gotta basically give an explanation.
Well, the thing is, I mostly charge everything. So she yells at me if I went to Wendy's. Like, you went to Wendy's for lunch today. It's like fine. It was one thing when I traveled for business all the time, and like, you went to a steak place or you went out for seafood when I'm in Boston or whatever else. I'm like, I was in Boston. What else am I going to eat there? And so there's that thing. But it's even when you know budgeting, okay? So if you say, well, I'm only going to spend X amount of money, what people do is they budget for their issues now. And there's 2 levels of budgeting. There's how much should I budget for what I'm paying month to month to month, okay? The car payment, I'll think of a business one, but a car payment, let's say with your car, you have gas, okay? You have tolls, you have repairs, okay? And then
Insurance,
you have for the car if you have it. Well, if you add all that up and say, last year I spent $500 in repairs, okay? Or $1,200 in repairs. Well, that's $100 a month. Well, people don't budget for that. They budget for the car payment of $300 and $25 or $50 a month for gas, not the $100 a month for repairs.
Right.
And if you don't put that away, and the same thing applies for business, is that, and then you have to look at, Well, I want to be able to buy $100,000 worth of inventory in August or September to get me through the holiday season so I can have a great holiday season. Well, if it's $120,000 in September, or $90,000 by September, that means you got to set aside 10 grand in January, February, March, April, May, okay?
Right.
Or know that you're putting in 10,000 a month and generating profit so that you have that 90,000 available either in credit or preferably cash in September. And it's just taking that mindset of planning ahead. It's the next level of, once you have accurate numbers, you need to budget appropriately, and you have to have a process. And Profit First provides what I think is a good way to budget for it.
No, I'll check it out. I listen to 3 to 6 per week on Audible, so hopefully it's on Audible. So two things I want to follow up on with what you said. The virtual CFO sounds interesting. Any resources to point people towards for that?
So there's Dan, which is I can't rattle off his site, but I'll be adding him if anybody wants to ask.
Because I didn't see it on the tools. I don't think I saw it on the tools.
I don't have a partners page, and I need to add it. I work with some lawyers that we recommend. I work with a couple of insurance agents. So when we look at helping e-commerce businesses succeed, which is our vision statement, is making e-commerce businesses better, I have relationships with insurance agents. I have relationships with lawyers, which I try to avoid as much as possible, with marketing companies, and people will help Amazon sellers win the buy box. Okay, I have relationships with people that both analyze 3PL warehouses, and I also have relationships with warehouses. So I've got a great relationship. I should have had these all listed out.
This is important. This is actually helpful just to hear the different partners people should be thinking about, or if they don't have one of them, to look into. So keep going.
And then there's sites that'll let you analyze and compare and say, these are my requirements for a warehouse, and you tell them, and then they'll come back with 3 to 5 that are high quality, get good ratings, and then you can reach out to, because otherwise there's a ton. Like ShipWire is really expensive. I have a great new relationship that Chad at Skubana helped me make with a company in Ireland that will really help sellers move in and put a toe into selling in the EU, okay? So they'll help that, where you don't want to, because if you're going to do it right, everyone's like, well, I can't sell in Europe until I can put $500,000 worth of inventory there. It just won't work.
Right.
But you don't know. It means you're like that.
You got to test it.
$1 million bet. Well, you can go in with tens of thousands of dollars. You can't go in with $100 worth of product, but you can go in with a smaller investment. So there's the warehouse side of things, and then there's one of the other big ones are e-commerce marketers, and there are a ton of people to avoid. Everybody should avoid Madwire. Okay, totally a scam. And their Marketing 360 is, I think, their new name. They're also very good at squashing bad reviews on SEO. Some of these companies are really good at doing that. Not that I usually say negative things about anybody. And so those are the different relationships. It's
good to know if someone's thinking about using one of these services. Yeah.
So you've got virtual CFOs are the key thing. And then peers. Now, I have to say, one of the better things is there's some great Facebook groups, but e-commerce Fuel is the forum that I recommend for sellers. There are thousands of sellers. They're really good about keeping vendors out. And seriously, these people lay it on the line. Okay, I've had 5 e-commerce businesses. I screwed up this way, and then the next one I screwed up this way, and then I screwed up again this way, and then the 4th one was sort of successful, and then, hey, look, the 5th one, I've learned this, but I'm sure there's a new mistake coming along, and it's just awesome. Tons of sharing of information, both tips and tricks and the good things and the bad things that go on out there. So there's a number of those resources. Then do you go to any conferences? So I'm speaking at a few conferences.
Yeah, what conferences do you recommend and do you attend?
It's tough. So the ones that I'm going to are Jim Cockram's, which is really more of for startup and focused people that are on Amazon. They're really selling on Amazon and people that are looking at rapid growth. And he provides a lot of great feedback and has a really loyal following. And that's coming up soon. I'm going to be speaking at the Prosper Show, which is for Amazon sellers.
Yeah, I talked to James Thompson. Yeah.
Let's say James and I just talked a few days ago, and I think that's going to be a great show. I think
it looks really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's found some who's and the speakers are really great, and I think it's going to be a higher end show. Beyond that, the challenge is you go from the space where I live, which is $1 to $20 million sellers that are growing, which in my view is small, okay? And then you've got anybody below a million or micro or startup. Any of the other shows typically are for businesses 20 million up. You've got Target speaking, and they're great, but IRCE and
I'm in Chicago, so I usually, when people come in for IRCE, they're like, hey, let's do something. So what do you think of IRCE?
It conflicted with another conference I was at this last year. I have sent him a request. James and I were talking, and I'm sent him a request to speak there. So I'd like to go speak, and it's a bigger seller. It just depends on where you are. There are a bunch of smaller ones. So, God, I'm blanking on everybody's name. Skip McGrath puts on a good warehouse conference that's very focused and targeted.
That sounds very niche.
It's not warehouse, but wholesaling. It's all on wholesaling, and he does some stuff. And I'm going to get to meet him in a few weeks. So there are a number of focus. The idea is that one, being an e-commerce business owner can be really lonely. Your neighbor's not one. There are a few meetup groups, but they're kind of dispersed. Even here in Denver, there can be more back east and Boston or Chicago. So it's tough to interact with them. So I think e-commerce fuel is a great resource. But if you want to get up and go to them, I would be very picky to look to see, are you going to get something out of it? Do you want to really check and meet with the vendors and get all the various swag? And are you going to be able to meet the influencers and really talk to them and learn and then build relationships? And you can't just go and not talk to anybody. If you're going to go, you got to go and network. And I'm not talking about the networking where you're trading business cards, everybody's trying to sell each other. You're trying to meet a peer and connect and go, oh, I'm a drop ship seller. Great, you're another drop ship seller,
bounce things off each other.
And bounce off each other. And then you can build that support group and accountability group to help share best practices. So if you're going to be in this, it's just harder, But there are a range of conferences. Just keep out for some of the higher end ones, because all the tools, and they're just not going to pay attention to you if you're selling under 20 million a year, because they're going to want to charge 10 grand a month for their tool. And it just doesn't make sense. And there's so many great tools that are at the lower end that you can afford and will scale with your business and both evolve rapidly through agile development, and like the way Scubana is really rapidly, they've got some great core and they have some great ambitions to continue to do more and more. And that's what a lot of these SaaS cloud solutions can do, that you pay a value that works for you, and they grow. And they'll evolve with you. And if they don't, there's 20 other options that you can go look and compare and switch to, and hopefully not change too often.
Yeah. So, Scott, you mentioned owners pay themselves wrong. So how do they pay themselves wrong?
How do I do this from the business owners? So one, if you're a partnership, okay, all of that stuff's running into your personal, your personal tax return anyway, and you can't really screw that up. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's what I was thinking. Like, how can someone screw this up that bad? But I'm sure you see it.
Well, so if you're a partnership, you can do that. There are other rules about you have to pay the partners equal amounts and a few other things. So you need to be talking to a CPA at the beginning, and then in Q4 to make sure you're doing things right, and then get things going for the next year. The other thing is what we see is that not so much they're paying themselves wrong, they pay their employees wrong. Okay, these are first-time business owners. They don't know the rules for setting people up. They don't do background checks. They think they're a 1099, but they work for them 50 hours a week, and you tell them exactly what to do. They're an employee. That's one of the big things, is blurring that line. It's one thing when you have someone off Odesk or Elance. Now, the big shift for companies, and you do this with the CPA, is it better for you from a tax perspective to go from an LLC taxed as a partnership or a sole proprietor to an S Corp? Okay? Which means that instead of having one personal tax return, you have a personal tax return and a business tax return. Okay? And in that case, the owners have to pay themselves a reasonable salary. Okay? But if you're doing shipping, you should pay yourself, 12, 14, 16, whatever you would pay someone to do your job, okay?
I see.
But if you're pricing and everything else, it's what you would replace, and that's your base pay, and then you pay payroll tax on that.
Right.
Okay? Now, you might pay yourself $2-3 grand a month salary, you can still pay yourself a 10 grand disbursement every month and be raking in the bucks, okay? But you have to do that piece. Now, some people, what they do is they set up as an S corp if they're not making a ton of money yet, and they pay themselves what they can throughout the year, and in November and December they just fix it all. They just pay all the payroll tax at the end of the year, and that's all fine. That's just logistically how you do it. So, and the decision is you need a CPA to look. If you're starting to make real money, you can save thousands of dollars in tax by becoming an S corp, and that's the reason you would do it.
Mm-hmm. So when do people qualify to use Catching Clouds?
So we work with established e-commerce businesses. We don't make sense until a business is doing at least $50,000 per month with reasonable margins, because if they're not, they should be spending their money on marketing and inventory, not paying themselves. If they're at that level, they're still in kind of that growth stage, and they need to do that. So we're looking at that. We typically are working with more complex multi-channel sellers, people that need help, that have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Okay, lots of purchase orders. They're on Amazon, eBay, Jet, Rakuten. They've got multiple shopping carts. Or they're looking to scale, because the best and most profitable use of the business owner's time is probably either selling B2B to clients and setting up a connection with Target or Buy Buy Baby or somewhere else, or they're at the point where they're making enough money they don't want to do the accounting anymore. Okay, and then they want to be ready and understand that they're outsourcing it. But our whole point is we put all the data in the cloud. Okay, so it's visible. They can log on at 2 o'clock in the morning and look at their books. Our virtual bookkeepers touch everybody's books daily. So we download, we ask them for supporting receipts, we update accounts payable. So we do all that in a real-time enough basis, and we have the resources to do that. And the other benefit of an outsourcer versus hiring a single virtual assistant or hiring somebody is we have a whole team. If one of our people's sick, you don't notice. We cover.
Right.
And that's that outsource relationship of we can scale and have that. And then we have a virtual controller that not only closes the books and digs into cost of goods sold, and we figure out all the weird stuff that Amazon did with their inventory. We file sales tax for them, is that we do all the work but their federal and state income tax, and then we meet with our clients, including when they don't, we have to chase them down to say, you have to look at your books, you have to see how your business, at least once a month, you have to look at what's going on in your business, and then we educate them. This is what's going on. We see this, and they tell us what's changing in their business, and it's that collaborative relationship there is the part we like. We consider ourselves part of our client's business.
Yeah.
Okay, we have direct relationships. They have people they know by name. We know them by name. We have a bunch that we interact with a lot, and some we do via email lighter. But it's when you're ready to have somebody involved in your business, and you're going to go from either 50K or 100K a month or more, and you're looking at continuing to grow, you need to have a solid grasp on your finances so you're making great decisions every day, every week.
Yeah. So, Scott, we talked about some sales tax issues. We talked about some payroll issues. We talked about software. What have you seen people do wrong, or were you to help them clean up kind of inventory type issues or expense management?
So inventory, it's kind of it's when we're setting up a cloud inventory solution for the first time. Okay, so they have costs either spread out on 50 different purchase orders, or they have a few costs here and there. The big thing is rationalizing the data, and then of course making them do a physical count. One of the benefits of a cloud inventory solution is if you do set it up right, you do a physical count, it keeps track of everything, and then you need to do a physical count maybe quarterly, maybe twice, depending on what you're doing. Okay,
Yeah.
So keep in mind that's another benefit there. So first you've got to do a physical count, and what do they have?
Right.
Okay, and then it's a matter of analyzing the data and updating the costs and saying which products did you make money on, which products did you sell, make money on and sell a lot of. It's focusing on those. It's kind of a basic thing. So it's really just getting it all recorded in a cloud inventory and setting that up, doing a physical count, and then staying on top of it, where the technology helps with a lot of that. And then you can look at automation. Depending if you're doing a lot of shipping, there are some tools that focus on warehouse management more than cloud inventory, and you implement barcoding. And I'm always looking for those different efficiencies. It's those kind of things to help get past the human nature of it. Some of this stuff is just a pain to deal with, And it's making it simpler so there's a standard process so that when you go to do it, you know it's going to take you 2 hours, okay? Versus, oh, the last time I did it, it took me 3 weekends, okay? I lost 3 weekends to doing whatever. It's defining those things and getting it through it. Otherwise, it's just a matter, I mean, everybody caught on that Amazon raised their storage costs. And so I know tons of sellers over the last month or so, last 6 weeks, have been selling off anything that's been in inventory and discounting everything. And so Amazon kind of forced everybody to clean up their inventory.
Right.
Because they realized they're finally, now, they were probably already losing money at the lower rates before, but since Amazon bumped it, it kind of forced everybody, and this is what
Put
Amazon...
some pressure on, yeah.
Put some pressure on them to focus on products that turn over faster, okay? Which is the way Amazon works and actually is good for your business. If you're making it and you turn it over faster, you make more profit faster. So it's those things. The other thing is if you're a drop shipper, if you have to be careful about sales taxes, what will happen is California and other states will make the drop shipper collect sales tax because of where they have it. So you'll sell an order, you'll have X amount of profit, and then you'll know you're going to pay a certain amount for shipping, but then they charge you $100 for sales tax, okay? That you can get back if you don't have a sales tax license. So a lot of people will register in California as an Amazon FBA seller so that anytime they drop ship from their suppliers, wherever they are in the US, into California, they have a sales tax exemption certificate and they don't have to pay sales tax because it can screw up your profitability on all of your California sales for that way. So that's another inventory issue.
With what you do, you have to know way too much. This is, it's like every state's probably different. It's a nightmare. I want to know sort of how you even got into this e-commerce world. Like I look at your background, like I said, it's physics, math, computer science. And I look at your director of engineering. You did unified communications program lead. I have no idea what that is. When you were in Culver City High School, what did you want to do? What did you want to be?
Oh, no, everybody else was on track, which I trained on the weekends. I worked at Computerland of West LA. I built some of the first IBM PCs and XTs to hit the market in the early 80s. So I've been playing with computers since I was 5, which I can myself, which was in 73. So I've always been working on computers, which was a big deal then because not everybody had computers. And they were stupid expensive and everything else. So
what did you want to do? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I've always wanted to be a computer geek and consultant, and I have really fallen in. It's being a consultant. It's helping understand a topic and apply it and solve problems. So if you look, I got into security for a long while and figured out I'm a CISSP, and that's fun. How are hackers getting in and what's going on? I like solving problems. And whatever I get involved in, I get really passionate about. Okay, and if you had asked me, would I have owned an accounting company, okay, and that I'd be focused on e-commerce. E-commerce, not so much, okay? But, I'm not into selling products and packaging products. I've always been a consultant doing services. So about 5 years ago, I was at a global multinational British corporation. I'm an entrepreneur and an idea guy in a company that takes 3 years to do something that small business owner entrepreneurs do in a week, okay? Drive me crazy. I was the expert. I got to fly around the world and do cool stuff, but... it drove me crazy. So my focus is I get passionate about solving problems. So I tend to focus on e-commerce business process optimization because that's what's fun. How can I automate and take technology, apply it, help solve problems and build efficiencies into business, leveraging technology to help them make more successful? Because I'm partnered with my wife, we're focused on the accounting side. So I do a lot of time consulting to companies like Skubana and the other cloud inventory and a number of e-commerce companies on how to build better integrations to accounting, both to name all the terms right, because these companies like Shopify is great. They're great companies, but they're trying to sell a tool and it's to generate e-commerce, which means they're generating money, and then they forget that accountants need to collect that volume of data coming off the back end to help businesses know what's going on. And that's the problem I'm really trying to solve. I'm passionate about solving problems, and I enjoy solving problems and becoming an expert and talking about stuff. And how do I translate that? How can I take this complex topic like sales tax and just say, look, here's where you have Nexus.
How to automate it,
Here's and here's how to automate it. And so I get to be an expert. I get to talk about it, and there are things that it's fun about. Now, just to let you know on sales tax, I've learned I'm an expert in sales tax process, I'm an expert in sales tax technology and how technology that'll automate that process. I have about 3 or 4 SALT, sales and local tax experts. They're experts and lawyers that I talk to, because I don't dig in to figure out whether or not edible underwear is a food or clothing in that state. Okay, but, I don't.
Your wife will get all over that if she sees edible underwear on your credit card.
Yeah, she's gonna be really mad when she sees all that. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I don't show up on a credit card. I gotta cash and say, no, I must have spent it at Wendy's.
I didn't ever envision the words edible underwear to ever enter this conversation in this interview. Scott, when you take on a client, what's the process what do you start off with doing with them? Obviously, they should be looking with this stuff without you, but obviously, what's the kind of the process that you take someone through?
Well, we meet people. They find us on the web or through, something like this, and they come to talk to us, and I'll answer all their questions and get to know their business, what they're selling, what type of seller are they, drop ship or FBA or whatever, and get a feel if they're a good fit for us and how they're doing. Then what we do is we start with an initial assessment, which we charge for. Okay, so we charge for the initial assessment, in which we get a copy of their QuickBooks file or all their spreadsheets. We log on to Amazon. We set up some of the tools we talk about to get a snapshot of their business. Okay, and we spend time following the Simon Sinek. It's all about the why. Finding out, why are they doing this? Is this to fund a hobby? A lot of people have a business that funds a hobby. One of our clients does fishing gear. Okay, great fish shop. Ed's Fly Shop can buy stuff, so it funds him, his life, and he gets all this product, and it means he can go on fishing trips all the time. Okay, right. So it funds the hobby. Okay, and you have other people that believe in their brands and other things along those lines. And so that we figure out their why. Okay, and then we come back to them with 2 numbers. And then we come back to them with a report that they could give their current accountant and say, hey, these people found these 30 things wrong in our books. Some of them trivial, some of them big. Okay, and a plan. And then we give them 2 numbers. One, for us to onboard them. That's to convert them from QuickBooks or spreadsheets or whatever over to Xero, and set up cloud inventory if they don't have it, or optimize their cloud inventory and get everything caught up to today. Okay, and that tends to be a big chunk of money. And everything we do is fixed fee. And then we have our and the initial assessment, the pricing is $1,000, and then setup cleanup is $2,000 to $10,000 if we're going back maybe a year, a little more. If we're going back 2 or 3 years to redo accounting that was never done right, it goes up.
Right.
And then our monthly fees are $1,000 to $5,000 a month. Everything we do is monthly. It's a 30-day cancellation, so they can fire us in 30 days and we can fire them. Okay, it's both ways.
Right. Right.
And then we look at a fixed fee service so that they know what their costs are. So in a lot of cases, they might evolve and grow and we might nudge it up a little bit, but we'll quickly get to a point where it doesn't matter if we're pulling in 200, 2,000, or 20,000 transactions. It's data. We're going to might seem expensive at first, but once they get going, we're going to be a fixed cost in their business, and they can double and triple and become more profitable, and good for them.
So I have so many questions, so limited time. Like, I'm not going to ask this, but I would love to want to hear, but I think it's interesting to talk about some of the good and some of the challenges working with a family member or spouse. I think a lot of people, deal with that. Probably initially they have friends or family or even a spouse. I know you have another meeting, so I'm not going to go into that, but I think that's an interesting topic that's on my mind.
I'll give you a short version.
Okay, yeah.
Minutes, which is there are pros and cons. So it's great. I totally trust and respect my wife. She's a power user. She's wicked smart. She's great with our clients and educating them on business and accounting and everything else. But we spend a crazy amount of time together. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're business partners and we work together all day. Okay. And then we switch to being parents, and our kids come home from school and we're parenting and driving kids around and doing all of that. And then we might be a couple, or then we might take off on our own and then we're individuals for 5 minutes and then we're a couple. And then it's tough. We went away for a weekend and we said, okay, we're not going to talk about the business or the kids.
That's impossible. No, I'm just kidding.
We had a very comfortable silence for about 45 minutes. Then you start telling your stories that you forgot. Like I told her stories about when I was a child and high school and other stuff. You end up redoing those stories because you don't remember, even though you told them to each other.
Right.
It's good. There are times we have to get away and separate it. I've talked to people that a lot of people, probably 40 or 50% of people that work with their spouse in some capacity or other, and the other half say they couldn't do it. They'd kill each other.
Right.
And for the people that do, it works out really well. I mean, all of our eggs are in one basket in this company, but we're in it together. And so it's really fun.
What's the hardest part about the business, your business?
It's the same as any other business. It's all the things. It's not one thing. Okay, so we're currently hiring. So finding the right people is critical to our business because we're a services business that requires on virtual bookkeepers and virtual controllers.
Right.
Okay. And finding the right people, even though they get to work virtually and work from home wherever they are.
Right.
And then it's finding clients and finding the right clients, and then managing it. But we're really, I mean, there are some things that are working really well. We've had a lot of our clients for quite a while. We're looking for long-term clients that are happy to pay us every month. They come back every month because we're providing value to them. We have relationships with them and we move forward. And then it's all the other pieces, it's managing our cash flow. It's doing all the things that all the other businesses need to do and try to do it right. And just stay focused.
Yeah.
So,
So Scott, I appreciate your time. This has been very, very valuable. You've given very expensive advice for free. So I appreciate that. And, I have one last piece that I want to talk about. And since it's the Skubana e-commerce mastery series, my last piece of the question and portion of the interview is, we've talked about a lot of things. What should we leave people with as some just things to start on and take action on right now to increase their e-commerce business?
I'd have to say automation.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to use technology. There's a lot of data flying around from shopping carts and 3PL sites and PayPal transactions, and there's a lot going on. You need the right technology that provides structure to your business. I've been looking for quite a while for my go-to, top 3 to 5 cloud inventory products instead of, well, it could be any one of these 30. And Skubana, very quickly, we've got one of our larger clients using Skubana. He's very happy with it. And they're in my top 5, and they're probably my top 2 because of the automation and their approach to solving the whole problem. It's like one of the reasons I like Zen Payroll. Zen Payroll does a great job around payroll because they do it all. Like they didn't leave any part out. So people might get annoyed that we don't do federal and state income taxes, but we chose not to do that. But it's we solve the problem. And Skubana solves most of it now and is rapidly solving all the other problems to build that automation for businesses to scale and then not have to change cloud inventory in the future. And they're really cool guys. They're fun to interact with.
They are. So my last question, Scott, and just before I ask it, tell people, where should they check you out? Where should they go online?
Yeah, so we're catchingclouds.net, so www.catchingclouds.net. Or you can send an email to info@catchingclouds.net and it'll come to us. Please follow us at catchingclouds. We are constantly blogging and tweeting and trying to share information and share guidance and help businesses that are either smaller, do it on their own and grow to the point where they can work with us, or share those tips. We're really all about sharing the information. Yeah. And when you're ready to not do the work, then there are people like us and a few of our peers. We're at the point where we're teaching other accountants about e-commerce. But no, come see us, follow us. We're really trying to write blogs, interact with us, ask me questions.
Yeah. So I wanted to find, it to kind of end with the biggest success story, how you helped the business turn around. I was reading testimonials, video conference gear, 911 health shop, spider tricks. What's your favorite success story where you helped someone turn around?
I have to say right now it's 3 Little Birds, which is one of our clients. So Leah is young entrepreneur and had started, she's just got a knack for picking the right clothing that women like to buy, okay? And in her age group and everything else. And she had a really good going business when we met her last year. And she was smart enough to say, I have no idea what's going on with the accounting or whatever else. And since she's younger, and a lot of entrepreneurs and e-commerce businesses, it's their 3rd or 4th or 5th business, okay? This is her first one. And we've been able to help her put in structure and coach her around business and connect her to a CPA to fix all of her taxes and get everything going. And then the other part is she said, I'm going to open a store in Lafayette and go brick and mortar as well as online. And we coached her through some of it. And she said, no, I know it's going to do it. She opened the store and she matched her online sales, which were good, in her store the first month.
Wow.
Okay. And so it was a combination of her core of being really good and her working her butt off as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
okay, and a mom, and really pulling it together, and then us keeping tabs as she made these big changes in her business on the finances and speaking up and saying, hey, you need to watch your cash flow here. Don't pay too much for rent there. And she listened to our background guidance. So we were part of that process. We don't just record stuff and talk to them once a month. If we see something wrong, we speak up.
Yeah.
And so that's been one that's been fun. So a lot of it's been her, absolutely. And as the accountants in the background, we're catching all the things she's got going on, pulling it together and showing her not just her gut feel, this is what's really going on financially in her business. And we do that with a lot of our sellers, and the relationships we've built with them is great. But that's the one that I'm really psyched how well she's doing.
Yeah. Scott, this has been hugely valuable. This could go on for another hour, but I will let you get to your hike / meeting or whatever. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, take care.